first grade. Free kick in at the goalkeeper, long shot attempted. Oh! Great kick pass out wide. That is fantastic. That is sensational. And then the winner.
How's it going, guys, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Blacktown Football Hour podcast for 2022. My name is Mark Toppoli, your host for this episode and every episode throughout the rest of the year. Really excited to give you this week's episode, but I will apologise straight off the bat. This is, of course, 24 hours late, coming out on Friday 6pm rather than Thursday 6pm. Unfortunately, we had a couple of games filled in the Australia Cup that sort of took my attention away from the episode this week. I promise I won't happen again until it does happen again. And then I'll apologise like this on camera again. But awkward intros aside, really great to have you here. If you could leave a like and a comment perhaps on what you see as the video progresses, as the podcast progresses in the comments section, it lets us know exactly what you're feeling about the episode, what you might like to see changed, and what you might like to see more of, for example. If you're on Spotify, make sure you share it around. I hope you're enjoying on your way to work, in the gym, wherever you are. Sit yourselves back. It's going to be about an hour and 10 minutes of pure football content. All Spartans, AYL, media, SFA, everything and the like is here. No international stuff, just for us, focusing on our wonderful clubs today, multiple. Let's go straight into the results, because I don't want to dilly on it too long, because we have a lot of things to get through today. Certainly going to be very busy and compact episodes coming up from now on, with everybody playing games across the board. So there's no LRL results. They haven't played since round 6, so I'm going to go off there. And because of the long weekend, we had no match of the round either. It will be back this weekend at Minchinbury Park, Minchinbury Oval, so make sure you're filling in and tuning in there. However, all of our Spartans did play on Saturday and Monday respectively, so we'll start with the girls, who are up against New South Wales Institute, a fantastic side. Let's see how they fared up. 14 started with a 3-0 win, great way to start the day. 15s had a 2-1 win, and then our 16s and 18s both had unfortunate 4-0 losses. But then our women's played as well at home against the same side. Reserve had a 2-2 draw, so their first points on the board for the season. I will now show you the highlights packages for that.
After a poor showing in their first round match against Sydney Uni, Spartans women's reserve grade needed to bounce back in a positive way. Up against Football New South Wales Institute though, they would need a solid performance. The away side were the first to come forward, but Anna Norton in between the sticks made a sharp save down to her left. They pressed again down the right flank, and miraculously, the scores remained level after this. But that press down their right, Spartans' left side of defence, eventually became too hot to handle, and Institute went ahead with a cool finish at the back post. Again, cross into the box and Norton was tested, saving onto the crossbar this time. This free kick then went very, very close. And then Norton again, standing firm in a 1v1 and coming out as the victor. This time though, with ball in hand, Norton went long, a huge punt upfield, which proved difficult to read in the air for the Institute defence, and Lydia Surgeon pounced on the loose ball to equalise for Spartans. Institute looked to respond instantly, but the woodwork came to the rescue for the Spartans. The home side then had an opportunity from an outswinging corner, and a couple more inches, and they would have gone ahead. Then, a harmless looking free kick, but Michelle Dalbon caught the keeper off guard and put the Spartans ahead, 2-1. Institute knew that they had to respond, being behind in the game for the very first time. A shaky moment of miscommunication looked to have given them some hope. And in the latter stages of the game, Institute came forward again. A deflection, a shot, and then a goal. 2-2. Institute were looking dangerous still. Norton was again quick to react here. Then another moment of madness, and somehow still it remained deadlocked. It would also prove to be one of the final chances of the game, and it ended with a point apiece in what was rather an entertaining game. Spartans take on Manly United at home this weekend, a team sitting just one spot above them in the NPL New South Wales Women's Reserve Grade table.
First of a couple of highlights packages, so if you just want to skip through them, that's fine. Our first grade played their first game of the season, and courtesy of NPL New South Wales, I can actually show you their highlights package, so I'm very thankful to those guys. I'll show you now.
Rude sandstorm on the PA, the Spartan cry before that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in Blacktown, And it's kickoff in round 2 of the NPL New South Wales women's competition as football returns here for the first time in just over 10 months. 2 over the ball for the Institute here. It's whipped in, and Sally James will claim that all day after Daniela Galich put it right in her palms. Galich does well to hold off some contact, finds a great ball to Cesari. Now top of the box for the Institute. Cesari! But they'll have to do without her. Ball's whipped in. It's cleared off the line. Looked like it was Cesari on that occasion. It's not cleared, though. Pinballing around in the box. Falls to Dashko. Can she fashion a chance? And it was on her left. Skied over the top. Turns her way out of trouble. Pass wasn't equal to it, though, as now a chance for Crofts to get forward. This is a bit more like it for the Spartans. Here's Ash Crofts. Numbers arriving. Cuts it back to Nash. What can she do? That's clear. That's a very good chance by the Spartans. Galore to whip it in. Is looking towards the back post. It's Nash! And, well, she nodded it down. Made decent enough contact with it, but Talia Franco was well positioned to deal with it. Oh, it's almost gone in, and Talia Franco couldn't quite hold it amongst the sea of bodies. Now Galich finds Silvesca, the substitute, has a shot from distance, and it had Sally James interested. That's a bit more like it. The substitute's getting involved for Lisa Warrener. Shot from distance from Gabach. Has Sally James interested. It was going towards the top corner. She had to get her right palm out to it. Wouldn't that have been spectacular? Sorry, from Sienna Silvesca. Crofts plays Lamont. Well done by Crofts. She's now got a bit of space to run into, though. Looking for the switch of play. That's a beautiful ball for Goldstein! And she's done it! The Spartans lead Rachel Goldstein. What a way to open your account. Tucks it under the legs of Talia Franco, and it was Ash Crofts who split the Institute defence apart with a ball in behind. And the hosts lead 1-0 Blacktown. And that is full time, ladies and gentlemen. The Spartans do get the win they wanted at home. It was the substitute, Rachel Goldstein, who proved to be the difference between the two sides. She finished the one-on-one, sent it under the legs of Talia Franco, gave her side the 3 points.
What a fantastic late winner it was, and you'll see a little bit more and hear a little bit more about that game when our first podcast guest comes on in just a couple of moments. Until then, let's talk about the boys. So they're up against Marconi Stallions at home. Now, we had some poor performances to start the day. The 13s lost 5-0. The 14s lost 4-1. Got a bit closer with the 15s and 16s, a 2-0 loss and a 2-1 loss. Like I said, we spoke to Ferdy very recently, so that 16s team coming the closest of the day. And we will push again for next week. We'll see how they go. And then our 18s won 5-1 emphatically. They actually conceded the first goal, but I won't spoil any more for you. So watch this highlights package coming up now. I hope you enjoy.
Having not won since round 4, the 18s were looking for a big performance. Nathaniel Oman was on point, as he always is, making his first save of the night. This next chance, though, even closer, repainting the crossbar. The game was shaping up to be an open-ended one for sure. Richard Schuecki not afraid to strut his stuff, as you can see here. He then came close to giving Spartans the lead, but this sailed over the crossbar. Second phase play saw this ball hung up into a dangerous area, and this display of wonderful technique gave Marconi the lead. How would the Spartans respond? Anything you can do, we can do better. It seems this ball from a set piece forcing an own goal and tying it at 1-1. Then almost straight after it, from one end to the other, Zane Owen finishing coolly on his left to flip the scoreboard on its head in a matter of minutes. That goal would prove to hurt Marconi mentally. Owen's goal was actually the last kick of that first half. Spartans were on the front foot from the first whistle of the second half, substitute Samuel Ayers going awfully close. But it wouldn't take long for Spartans to put some daylight between the two sides. Emilio Vinci was left unmarked and gave the home side their third. Shueki then did well to round the keeper, who couldn't retract the challenge in time before taking out the forward. He then stepped up and converted the penalty he won coolly. The set piece proved Marconi's undoing on the day. This time Sam Ayers would have his moment. With 3 points in the bag, Casper the Friendly Ghost got involved, and it would prove to be one of the final moments of the game. Spartans jump up to 11th with this result, and they are away to Northern Tigers up next.
Our men did not play at home, they played away at St George City, and it was certainly a tough day. So the 20s, who are in the midst of a coaching change at the minute, and have their chance to find their feet this weekend again, they lost 3-0, and then our first grade game went 2-1 in way of the home side. So 2 losses there, which is a shame, but with, I think, some new confidence coming into both sides, one with a change in scenery and one with a big win in midweek. We'll see how that can affect both of their sides when they come up against Central Coast Mariners this weekend at home. Make sure you're there tomorrow. You want a highlights package of that game, or are you going to get it? Here are the 2 goals.
Oh, good save. Romick with the tap in comes from number 20, Damien Jaman. Preventing Blacktown with an opportunity. Here's a chance for Morrick. Morrick scores!
As I mentioned about a midweek game as to why this episode has been pushed back by 24 hours, Sydney CBD, who were technically at home but came across the M4 to play away at Blacktown Spartans, but again, were considered at home. They played here last night, so if you tuned into the live stream, you would have heard that I was very fortunate enough to cover that game, and it was a really good game, and 6 goals to go off and have some fun covering that game. So the first time I've covered Spartans, so I'm really happy to have done that. As you can see, I'm in their change room today, a little bit of change of scenery. I can give you a highlights package of that one too. So here's all 6 goals that were scored on the day. I hope you enjoy the coverage as well.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Spartans TV, whether on Facebook or YouTube. Very much appreciate it. First chance here for the home side. Incredibly, but it's going to be called offside. He doesn't know it. He scored, and that'll give him a lot of confidence. See that intense pressure Aaron Richmond was putting on there. He's got to run back into position. Patrick Manis has got a lot of space to move into. Oh, that's a really good ball. He should finish here. Surely if he gets the ball first, he's clipped it across the face, and that will be the first goal. It is. Is it going to be given? Yes, it will. First goal for the Spartans. He was left completely unmarked, and the keeper is flabbergasted that he was given that much space. John Bailey there on the ball, but he's ended up losing it here in the midfield, and they're under a bit of pressure here. Let's see how much pace Hamish Lamberton has in those legs. In the middle is Beattie. It's Lamberton for 2, and it's 2. He did it all by himself. He didn't need any help at all, and his 4th goal in all competitions puts his side 2 to the good. And it comes towards the back stick, and then they open goal. They do! A fantastic set-piece goal, and CBD are back in it. Out of absolutely nowhere, their number 18, Adam Wilkinson, gets up, leaps like a salmon, and his forehead met that ball better than anybody has so far today, and it found the back of the net. Hugh Brown was left with no coverage from his defenders. Some serious height in there. I know that they have been practicing these free kicks. In it goes, very dangerous looking goal in his air, looks to whip it back across the face. It's something they've practiced. Bit of kerfuffle in the box, and it's fallen in favour of Spartans, who go back to 2 goals in front. Off the bench, he missed a bit of a sitter by his own standards before Mason Ireland, but that one he wasn't going to miss. No goalkeeper, no pressure. Skimban, who's been electric off the bench. And that man then finds Bangura. Outside is a man looking for a brace off the bench. Mason Ireland to really put them in front by a significant margin, and that he does! Spartans now 3 to the good, and you can tell by the reaction of today's considered home side, the CBD, they've just probably gone behind by a bit too many now. Apostolopoulos, he's come away with it. It's 3v2 in the box. This should be another one for Spartans. Apostolopoulos squares. Bangura, will he finally get his? He does! And then one by Golan back towards his keeper, who's claimed it really nicely. Referee with a whistle in his lips, and that will do it in the Australia Cup 4th round tie between Sydney CBD FC and Blacktown Spartans. Courtesy of a wicked second half performance by Blacktown Spartans, they are through to the 5th round.
Welcoming in Hutcho, man of the match performance after this Australia Cup 4th round victory against Sydney CBD FC. You played left fullback, you played right fullback, you did both competently, and obviously you impressed everyone. Full 90-minute performance as well. First of all, how are the legs feeling? You feeling good?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's always good to get a midweek 90 minutes in, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Both fullbacks, as in both fullback positions, you covered them both. Do you see any difference in do you find one more difficult than the other, or are you just as competent on both sides?
I like to think I keep up on both ends. Yeah, so it's always good to have both sides in your pocket, that's for sure.
Good. I mentioned because we talked about what you wanted to be sort of noticed on camera tonight, and I mentioned it up there in the commentary booth. I certainly think you ran everywhere today. A couple of marauding runs forward, so I kept an eye out on them. But yeah, they create a lot of good space, and I think a really good performance. So you must be happy with how the team went and you yourself.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's always great to get a win after a few sort of heady-going performances. Yeah, I think we'll roll that into the weekend coming.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. Awesome. Until then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I promise that was the last of our highlights packages. Let's go straight into our first podcast guest of today. So I'd like to apologise before we go in, because unfortunately our Zoom recording has focused entirely the 10-minute conversation on her camera only. You won't see me at all, so remember this face, that's who's asking the questions. Either way, I'm sure she won't mind, considering how good her performance was against Institute. Of course, got the winning assist and was pivotal defensively in her work rate and pressing from the front. So have a look now. I'll see you guys when we get to the match of the round previews after that. So thanks for tuning into this little bit. Let's wish our guys and girls luck this weekend. Make sure you're here tomorrow for the Spartans for the Spartans playing here against Mariners. We'll see you then.
Our first guest of today for our Blacktown Football Hour podcast is none other than Western Sydney Wanderers and Blacktown Spartans striker Ash Crofts, who's been kind enough to join me just before she starts work this morning, which I'm very appreciative for. She was critical in our game that we just won over Football New South Wales Institute, and I'm really happy that she's here to talk about her involvement in the game itself. So Ash, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So, look, it's great to see you back in Spartans colours again for 2022. First game back at home, first game for our first grade, and you assist the only goal of the game, the 84th minute, and it was a sublime pass, and it was just a great finish in the end from Rachel herself. Look, I don't think you can really teach anyone how to put the weight of pass that you did on that ball that you played, but tell me, you win the ball back off the defender, and you have a moment to look up. So what goes through your mind when you look up and you scan the pitch?
Yeah, It was a game that was really deadlocked. No side had either really had like a massive chance to kind of win the game. I think Sally might have pulled off a mad save like a little bit earlier, but I finally got the ball after literally hardly touching it the whole game, because their Institute is such a good side. Like, they can keep the ball so well, move it so well. So we were honestly just trying to keep them in front of us the whole game. But yeah, I think the ball ricocheted off me and the centre back, and I kind of ended up with it at my feet. And I just looked up and saw a little gap, and I saw Rachel making a really good run. So I just, didn't want to mess it up and put the ball through. And luckily for me, her run was perfect, and she met it perfectly, and it just slipped straight under the keeper. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you mentioned that the game was deadlocked for so long, and look, we've had probably the majority of the chances, as Robin, I'm sure, will talk about at training when we get there. You sort of touched on it, but do you feel like it was a bit of a weight off the shoulders, knowing that we had probably the better of the chances, and would we have gone away from that game thinking that was 2 points lost rather than 1 point gained?
Definitely, I think so. I think they might have had more possession than us if you looked at statistics, but I think every time we went forward with the ball, we actually looked quite dangerous. Every attack we kind of had was meaningful. But yeah, Institute is always a hard game. They're so young and they're so well structured that they're really hard to break down. And they're so resilient. They're always going to fight till the end. But yeah, I definitely think that it would have been 2 points lost rather than a point gained. So yeah, we're very happy to come away with 3 points in a game like that, especially since, we're still missing some of our squad. We actually haven't even got them back at training yet. So there's still a lot of people to come in and kind of add to what we've been building. And yeah.
Absolutely. Look, there's going to be tough competition as always this year throughout the season. Now, I'm not sure if you've had a look at sort of what games we have coming up or very later on down the season, but are you the kind of person who's looking forward and saying, yeah, that's when I need to be at my best and that's where we need to be playing our best, or are you just taking it match by match and just knowing that, I'm going to be here, I'm going to score every week if I can?
Yeah, at this stage, we're going to take it match by match. I think, especially this weekend coming up, we've got Manly on Sunday and then our catch-up game with Sydney Uni on Tuesday. So that's going to be a tough one with only 1 day turnaround. But yeah, I haven't actually had the chance to look at the full fixtures and things like that. But the comp's so strong now. There's so many players coming in from, interstate, and I think some teams even have like overseas players as well. So, you kind of have to be prepared to play at your best every single week, no matter what the team is. Whether it's a team at the bottom, like maybe that's a chance to pick up some points, because most games are extremely difficult. So you kind of need to take points at any stage you can.
I spoke to Brad a couple of weeks ago. Actually, well, it was on the first episode of this podcast when it came out. This is episode 6. So yeah, a while ago now. So he talked about his goals for the season. Obviously, it's taking games week by week and trying to get 3 points from every game that we go into. And it's the prospect of finishing in finals positions and then having a really good finals run. So is that something that sort of resembles with you? Is that what you're also is that what's the team vibe at the moment? Is that what we're all aiming for?
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of exciting players, be that they are all quite young. Like, I believe I'm one of the oldest, which is, sad times, but that's okay. But yeah, I believe I've been at the club for a very long time. And yeah, everyone's, got the same goals. And I believe that the team that we have, like, will be able to, do what we set out to do. Even on Sunday, we came into the change room at halftime and having not a difficult first half, but, we didn't see much of the ball, and it was really us. We hadn't even trained together at that point. So, it was really trying to help each other on the run and things like that. And the conversation at halftime was so just everyone giving their ideas, like majorly like a group discussion rather than, coming in feeling defeated or whatever. Like, everyone was just working together to, figure out where we can go from here and how we can improve. So it was a really good vibe and looks good for the season ahead.
Excellent. Now, we've had a couple of interrupted seasons, as we all know, but things are looking good so far. If it stays this way, obviously, besides rain cancellations, but that will go away eventually. So, are you excited to just finally figure out, after the amount of games that that are in a full season, to just see where we end up and where each team is at? Is it exciting to think that yes, there might just be a full season, touch wood?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's been 2 years of, I think, maybe the first year, the first half was cancelled and we played the last half. And then the second year, we played the first half and the second half was cancelled. So, it's really hard for teams to get, into the groove of things and figure out where they're at and all that kind of things when you can only play 10, 11 games. So, I think everyone will be really excited to just get a full season together. But I definitely think, the longer the season goes on, more familiar the girls become with each other, the better the team cohesion will be. So it'll be really exciting.
Something you mentioned before, I know I didn't tell you about this before we got onto the recording, but you mentioned how sometimes strikers sometimes you just don't touch the ball in a game. And that's just the way it is. Whether that's the way teams are playing now, there's less of a role of a number 10. So maybe you get the ball less from them, whatever it is. But I think it's really important now that, strikers obviously very much measured on the goals they score and, their statistical contributions, because that's just the easiest thing to look at. But when you're in a game like that and you don't touch the ball that much and, you might feel like you're not involved, how satisfying is it knowing that you were the one who like really directly led to that goal after, you know, probably like even by your own admittance, probably not feeling involved in the game for most of it.
Yeah, it's you know, I think it is becoming more and more in the game. You know, it's easy to get frustrated when, you know, you're kind of just not standing there. I had to do a lot of defending on the weekend, but you know, you're up there a lot, and not through like the girls. It just the way the game was panning out. Like I just wasn't involved as much as I normally would be. So you know, you've got to just stay switched on, because things like that ball going through to Rachel, like you need to be switched on for those moments. And like luckily for us, that moment won us the game. So you know, I think it's very easy to get frustrated. I think there was a point where I'd finally gotten the ball, and like not sure whether it was or wasn't, but apparently I came from an offside position. So you know, easy to get frustrated once finally getting the ball and stuff, but you've just got to stay switched on and stay focused for that moment that's going to come for you. And luckily for me, I did, and I was able to hit it to a perfectly timed run for Rachel. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good ball, and like I'm probably going to put it into the video at some point with permission from NPL TV, so I'll be able to see it. My last question for you is, I went back and I watched this Get to Know Ashley Croft's video from Spartans TV last year, and Brad, our coach, asked you about your go-to dance move. Now, I'm not sure if that necessarily correlates to a celebration straight away, but when you score next week, are you planning on showing off the robot for everyone else to see? That's something that we could expect.
When I was asked that question, I was taken extremely off guard, because I'm not the type of person that has too many dance moves or goes out on weekends to show them off. But I'm sure something can be arranged. Maybe the robot can come out.
Yeah, for sure. When we have a game winner, when you have another 85th minute wonder pass or some other goal, I reckon it's worth bringing it out. That's all for sure. Yeah, look, thanks very much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time. I know you're heading off somewhere now. But yeah, no, really looking forward to a long and prosperous season. I think it's going to be a good one. And I think the team vibe is really good, and being able to watch it from the little sound booth is always a blast. So it was really good. And when that goal went in, it was fantastic celebrations. So
yeah,
congratulations
definitely.
to you.
Straight into section 2. Hope you enjoyed that section 1 with our first grade women's player, Ashley Croft. She's a bit of a legend, and that assist tells you all you need to know. That's the quality that you'll be able to watch every week until the end of the season. So I hope you enjoyed that. Match of the round preview coming up. Minchinbury Jets, who unfortunately didn't get to play their match of the round due to a bit of rain, are featuring back again already, which is fantastic. It's not a replay of that game. It's just the next match of the round. It's going to be at their home, Minchinbury Park. Which I'm sure they're delighted to be able to say and welcome some fans back home. And we didn't have a home game for Minchinbury last year in the match of the round, which means we get to finally show off, you know, what you guys have been to grass, to see how nice the grass is and how nice the facilities are. So I'm really excited to be there. Blake and Simran, thanks very much for joining us. You've been here plenty of times already. You know exactly how this goes, but Simran, really nice to have you. Great watch, by the way. It's actually awesome. Now look, first question for you guys. We've never got that match of the round, you know, a month ago, which was a shame. We rescheduled, and you had that game here on a Wednesday night. In fact, it was pretty much exactly 2 weeks ago. And it also had a goal of the week in it, which I will show at the end of the video, so make sure you stay around for that. Now, was that Wednesday night amidst a bit of cold weather, and that rain was a bit on and off? But tell me, you guys got the edge in that game, two sort of late-ish goals, but you had the lead into the first half, I think, but then really the 2 goals at the end really saw it all off. But tell me about that game, because it was tight and it was against a team who were really competitive last year. So let's just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having us back again, Mark, so soon. And yeah, with the match of the round, we're able to catch up last Wednesday, I think, and I think it was just more of the same from the boys. You know, it's been a really good start to our season. To be at the top of both senior tables at Easter is a great foundation for us. I think we just remained patient. You know, from last time's podcast, we knew that St. Pat's were going to play with the ball. So it was really about the discipline, when to press, when to hold off, when to keep the shape. got a goal early, and then went in at halftime 2-0 up. So we knew that, like we were sitting comfortable, and it was just about that, I suppose, match or game management to see out the win with the points, and very happy with the result.
Good. I'm glad you remember the game and when the goals went in better than I do. So obviously, I've got mine mixed around with the reserve grade game and things like that. But that's fine. That's why I have you in to do my match reviews. I'll pay you afterwards. That's all good. Simran, now jog my memory. How much of that game did you play?
The full 90.
You played the full 90. And what position did you play?
Centre back.
Yeah, so people can watch you and expect you at centre back in the game this weekend?
Yes, central centre back, yeah.
Excellent. So, now you guys get the clean sheet, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Your defence has been pretty solid all season.
Yep.
But you're coming up against a team this weekend who, in their most recent game, put 7 on Premier Spurs. Now they also conceded 1, which I guess gives you that. Well, I guess you don't really need the hope, but there is obviously that area of weakness, I guess, for them that they're trying to improve on themselves. But how do you sort of, as someone as part of the Minchinbury leadership team, how do you sort of work with the boys and make sure that they're not looking at that 7-1 result? They put 7 goals on. How are you making sure that the boys aren't sort of put off by that, or how are you making sure that your team is ready to take that on and reduce that from 7 to 0?
I think the best thing about our set of boys especially is we kind of let whatever happens on the outside happen, focus on our thing. Can't control things that are out of our hands, so it's better to focus on what we can control. And look, it's a tough comp. There'll be different teams, different results every week. You can't worry about every single result. We can just put our best foot forward. We have been good defensively, but there's still been some mistakes that we've got to iron out. But I think we're gelling, still early into the season. When you play together, especially in defence, that's when you start kind of getting those partnerships better and forming better. So I think steadily across the weeks, we've slowly gotten better and better defensively as a unit. And we're going to look to do that. They might have scored 7 last week, but we'll try and make sure that doesn't happen this week.
Yeah, excellent. It's really weird, and I think it's a very open comp because we're in this predicament where you've beat Eastern Creek, who have beat Prospect, who have beat St Pat's, who you have also beat, and then you also lost to. It wasn't Prem Spurs, was it? No.
No, definitely not.
No, I was going to say
the Tigers.
No, I'm getting it mixed around. And it was to the Tigers, and the Tigers have had their own wins as well.
Yeah, of course.
So everybody had there's no undefeated teams. Everyone's beaten everyone. And currently, it's not quite the Premier League at Christmas sort of thing, but it's a little bit earlier than halfway through the season. But top at Easter on both is very credible. Congratulations. With the comp being so open, which therefore makes it more competitive and closer, you just must have this belief right now that you can beat anyone. And I think with a 3-0, and that's really convincing on the scoreline, and the performance was convincing, you must just be excited to go into this game. You must just really want to play. There's no fear in this squad, there's just a desire to keep doing what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, look, 100%. I think that no fear, a kind of mentality come through from day one. Beating Creek in a very tough game, I suppose just set the tone for the boys, and we've been able to go in week by week, with the same mentality. As you mentioned, it is a very close comp, and it's only early. We all need to play each other at least 3 times, so I'm expecting, I suppose, more difficult games the second time round. We got caught against Tigers, we know that. Some players out, some people not in their best positions. And that won't happen again the next time round. But yeah, look, I'm proud of the boys, and as I said, it is early, and we're going into this weekend expecting another tough match. As Simran said, I'm not too worried about the score lines of other clubs and who they play and whatnot. We're really, I suppose, focused on ourselves, and we have to give ourselves credit. It's the hard work and the sacrifice that's got us to the top, and we can only play who's in front of us, regardless of games in hand, this, that, so it's about us going into this game with confidence, and just enjoying the match of the round at our home field at Minchinbury Oval, and taking it 45 and then 45.
The interesting thing is, and Prospect talked about this the last time, well, technically the first time they featured on the Match of the Round podcast here, and that was that their defence, sort of the ages of the squad go a bit lower as they go up towards the strike, from defence to striker. So their defence is actually the most sort of experienced part of their team, which you can imagine is something that a lot of teams internationally and domestically sort of have. Now you're obviously very young yourself, and I know that back line is quite young as well. In fact, the entire team is young, and obviously experience can make the difference on a day sometimes. So how do you, as a young team and as someone part of this young leadership team, how are you sort of working with your captain, who's not here today, but how are you guys working together to make sure that everybody keeps a cool head, is able to mature quickly, and just make sure that every performance is the same? Because one thing that young players struggle with is probably a bit of consistency or decision making. So, as is becoming a regular occurrence, the lights are going off in the middle of shooting. But just as I was about to round out my question there, how are you and the leadership team and the captain making sure that your young average age is making the right decisions and sort of just trying to be consistent throughout the season?
I think we're all very open-minded, and as a leadership team and as a coaching staff as well, we're very open to the young guys that have any questions, any concerns or anything like that, and we encourage them to talk up as much as possible, take over, if anything, encourage them to kind of usurp us, because at the end of the day, they're there to push us just as much as we're there to push them. And as for the experience element, I think, yes, we are a young squad, but there's also good sprinkles of experience. I know Matt, who's been on here before, he's one of our more experienced heads. He's part of the leadership team. Our goalkeeper, Ahmed, he's been there, done it all. He's one of the experienced heads. So I think when things do get out of hand, or, you get a bit overwhelmed, X, Y, and Z, having those few boys in there, it definitely helps out. And then, you've got your coaching staff to rely on. I think there's a huge amount of respect for Blake. So, if there's any issues or anything like that, he's kind of our first point of contact for anything anyway. So.
Good. One thing I noticed firsthand, and what I can see from the reaction to the goal of the week, for example, as you'll see at the end of the episode. But again, of course, I was there for that game, so I saw it firsthand. But looking back on it, I've reflected and I've thought to myself, this Minchinbury squad, there's a really good and strong sense of togetherness. And I think the example that I want to share to our viewers right now is when they were considered the away side here at Blacktown Football Park, and they had their match of the round replay against St Pat's. A very good majority of the players from both reserve and first stuck around and made sure that away change room was clean. Not just not a mess, but I mean clean, as in, where's the broom? Let's sweep the plasticky bits that come out of the synthetic pitch and put them into the bin. And now, at the time, I was trying to record the podcast and I wanted to go home, and I was trying to kick you guys out, which I'm sure we can laugh at. But realistically, even though it was very late at night, I think that's what even made it more commendable, was that you guys were happy to do that. And it's something that, I didn't have to do or someone else didn't have to do. So that sort of sense of togetherness and that high class minimum expectation. I know people have a no sort of stupid person policy in their teams, but I think that's even below sort of your minimum. I think your minimum is really just this sense of togetherness and I think a bit of class. So is that something that you've been instilling in this new young squad?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a part of how I coach. I do have high standards, and I think it comes out through the trialling process. If you're not here to be a part of, I suppose, the bigger picture, which is a family culture, if you're not a player that looks out for the players to the left or right of you, or a senior player who thinks he can only play first grade and not look out for the under 21s, or just walk into a squad, well, then this isn't the club for you. So that kind of family mentality, and I suppose giving back to the community, giving back to the BSFA that have given us the rights to play football again. I suppose when COVID took it away from us, is what we're about. It's about, as I said, that family focus, and we're all passionate about football. It's what we love to do, So those late nights, that sacrifice I keep talking about, that happens 3 nights a week. All the boys chip in. at training. They help me with gear. They help with setup, with pack up, and I think the club, now has a Premier League side to be really proud of, and I'd urge them to keep backing us.
Excellent. Now, it might be difficult when people are working the next morning or even the next day, and it's 11 o'clock in what's not normally where you play your home games. That probably can be difficult for some people, but I think when you become used to it, and you guys are probably leading by example as those senior players, is that something that you've noticed that yes, it's difficult to have to clean up and stay behind a little bit, but when you lead by example, people follow on, and it has a really good effect?
I think definitely, and I think it would become an issue if it was one or two constantly carrying the load. But I think, again, Blake's built such a good culture that even though we have a leadership department and everything like that, it's a whole squad mentality. I'll give a shout out to Chad, especially, who was the one you're talking about. So he's one of the younger boys as well. So there's that idea of even that age is just a number. He's leading from the front, even though he's one of the younger boys. So I think, obviously, once you see one person do it, the boys are a good group that are always together. So you want to help that person out the next time around.
For sure. Now, the most important part of this is the preview for what's coming up on the weekend. Now, fingers crossed that we get that, of course. There is rain forecasted. I don't think it's raining right now, which is lovely. So let's keep those fingers crossed. Now, like I said, we might have a visitor coming in. Hopefully not. Now, your opposition, like I mentioned about 10 minutes ago, look, they've beaten teams you've beat. They've lost to teams you've beat. They've beat teams that you've lost. Everyone can beat everyone, as we mentioned.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me first ask you, yes or no, have you watched them this season so far yet? Have you been able to watch Prospect at all?
No, we haven't.
Okay. Now, but you have got a match of the round to go off, which is helpful.
Yeah, so I suppose when we watched that, we were focused on Creek. So we'll go back probably later tonight or tomorrow at training, and I suppose have a focus on Prospect, obviously.
Okay. Now, I would have asked you this before, but are you planning on changing, the way you play depending on how you see them play, or are you just going to go in with the same? This is how we play with Minchinbury, and we're going to stick to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're going to stick to our guns. I think when you asked me this question last week, how we're going to prepare for Pats, and I said there'll be tweaks, based on personnel, etc. We had young Michael Pender who come up because midweek games, some senior boys just can't get out of work, and he had a blinder, getting 2 of the man of the match points, and then I suppose just bringing on the young guns from the bench as well just shows the depth and that everyone's fighting for their place. So in terms of that, and with a clean sheet, some good goals, like you said, a goal of the week contention, it's good for me to have these, I suppose, issues where people are fighting for their place, but it's also, I suppose, stable for us to take in the same mentality, take in the same lineups and similar players, and match them against a team that we haven't faced yet.
Prospect, big team, match the round, at home, it's being commentated, it's being filmed. You're excited?
Yeah, big opportunity, and I think that's what Wednesday night for us was against St. Pat's as well. I think we're a team that thrives on opportunities. We don't want to have any regrets, that's why we play the way we do. And I think the boys thrive under pressure. I think there's no easy game in this comp, that's why there's so many wins and losses. Every team has their strengths, every team has their weaknesses, and on any day, any team can win. It's just we got to make sure whenever we're playing, we're the team that wins.
Good to hear. Good mentality, good game plan from what I can tell, and it just, again, like I said to you last time, and I'm sure I've set off the camera plenty of times, I'm really happy to see you guys progressing in the right direction. So thanks very much for joining us for Section 2. Best of luck this weekend. Can't wait to watch it and be able to cover it as well. But yeah, thanks again, and on to Section 3. Thank you for tuning into Section 2. Now I welcome you to the last section, but certainly not the least. This is Section 3 as per our match of the round preview for this weekend. Fingers crossed that we can have that game, of course. Prospect United's coach and captain Peter, and Lee. Peter this side, Lee this side. really great to have you back on. Really great to have you on for the first time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being here. Really, really do appreciate it. So look, it hasn't been too long since we saw you guys last on here, and of course a match of the round. And since that loss, yes, you've only played 2 games, but you've scored 9 across those 2 games. It's an average of a goal every 20 minutes across the 180. Let's start with that match of the round, which obviously everyone can go back and look at. Let's talk about what went wrong on that day, and then we'll follow up afterwards with how you've sort of amended that since then. So I'll ask you both. I'll start with you, Peter. What went wrong?
Well, what went wrong was, like I said to you in the last interview we had, match fitness was always going to get us, and it did. Towards the end, it really got us. Missing players, we were missing a lot of players. We had 20s backing up in first grade, so it was personnel was main thing. That people didn't, obviously COVID and whatnot, and fitness. We didn't get to train. The fields were closed. We didn't get got no training sessions at all in. That's what I said to you. We trained one night. I think we got one night in, and then the rest we just couldn't find fields. We couldn't. Obviously, MPL was taking over fields and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Now we'll just say for those watching along, yes, there is a bit of background noise. There's a couple of games happening outside, so we can't help that. It's just enthusiastic parents watching along. So I'll try and keep your attention here. Now, if you do actually remember that game, the first chance actually fell to you guys. George Marcoux had one on his left, went around the goalkeeper, and then had, unfortunately, what seems to have cursed the rest of the league, and it was the miss of the season, to be honest. Do you think, yes, fitness levels were a problem, but just to have that, to be ahead of them by 1 and so early on it would have been, do you reckon, Lee, that would have changed the course of the game, or was just that fitness level eventually going to catch up?
Yes and no. I mean, it was a bit of a sting in our momentum. We did start off really, really well. That first half, it was a game of 2 halves. That first half, we were strong, created chances, and you're right. That goal early in the piece, if it went in, would have settled the nerves too. Like Pete said, we did have a few young boys backing up and helping us out in that game. So I think it would have settled their nerves as well. And then we would have got into our rhythm. But it wasn't to be, so we can't sort of just dwell on the what ifs, because if we did that, then we'd be doing that all year, because throughout the course of even last year, there was a lot of opportunities that we missed, but we kept our head up and continued on. But not long after that, we hit the post as well, so there was a couple of chances in that game, but you just got to get on with it. You just got to keep going, and credit to George, he didn't drop his head. He kept going and kept sort of being a bit of a nuisance up front, but the big thing for us was no pre-season, and it doesn't matter how long you play with each other or how long a team's been together. If you don't have a pre-season, then it's tough, and we definitely felt that in the second half. Some of us were feeling it. We started losing some blokes, and a couple of silly sort of unnecessary mistakes were made by us, and Eastern Creek made us pay. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I think since Eastern Creek, obviously you guys have, yes, you've conceded 2 goals. It's not the end of the world, but I think you guys have been pretty flawless. Maybe not performance-wise, but in terms of the results, have been great, and the goal difference looks now really good. But also, I think the important thing to mention, and I talked about this in section 2, as you would have already watched, all those watching along now, is that every team has beaten everyone so far. Like no one has sort of just emerged as a real front runner. Minchinbury are currently sitting top across both divisions, but they've also lost to Quakers Hill Tigers out of nowhere. Well, I'm sure what they think is by out of nowhere. They also then beat the team that beat you in that match of the round. So it's, as you can hear the outside noise, it's a very close competition, which I think is great for someone like me, who's a neutral watching along, who just wants to see good football. But I think you're going to be going into this game knowing that you have improved since round 1. Yeah. And that you can really take it to them. So, are you feeling confident that you're 2 games on the trot? That's just going to continue now?
Oh, well, we did get training under our belts, which was great, and you can see in the second game we played, then the third game we played, we obviously got better in the third game. It's once we get on the park and we can start training, start putting some combinations together, everything works well. Are we confident? Oh, look, you can't because we haven't played him yet, so we don't know what Mitchenbury's like. It could be a new team, completely new team from last year. But you've got to have a bit of confidence in you too. You know, I've got a lot of confidence in the team that we're going to put on the park. You know, football's a funny game. You know, you don't know what's going to happen until you start playing it. So we play what's in front of you. So
when you do lose to a team who you were so close to last season, and it was a 4-1 scoreline, how do you then pick up the boys as a captain and say, "Let's reset"? How did you go about doing that?
It's for starters, it was round one, so you don't win a comp from round one. We know what we're capable of as a squad, first grade, reserve grade. You know, we know where we should be at the end of the year. There's no doubt about each other, knowing each other's talent. And collectively, you know, we work well together, and we've come to this comp for one reason. That's to not only win PL2 but promote Prospect into PL1. That was the target set for last year. Unfortunately, wasn't meant to be, but it applies again for this year. So we just regroup, we start again, and we go again. So yeah, look, it was a tough loss. Eastern Creek made us pay for our errors, and credit to them. They're a good squad. You know, I won't take anything away from Eastern Creek, but we knew that. We knew that from the first game. We knew what we were up against. So it's just up to us now. You know, it's up to us to focus on results, 3 points. You know, trying to stay fit, trying to stay injury free. Discipline for us is a big thing. Yeah, discipline played a bit of a part last year in how we you know, went through the year. So that's something that Pete tries to ensure, and myself as a captain, as a bit of an old bloke on the field with the young boys. They get a bit hot-headed at times, but it's all about trying to keep the emotions intact and controlled. But yeah, we know what we're capable of, and we know where we should be. So it's early days.
It's interesting. Sorry to interrupt you at the end just there, but you said right at the end there about, you know, you're a more experienced head, and there are younger guys around you who can be a bit hot-headed. Now that's natural when you are young, of course, and you sort of mature out of that. This Minchinbury side, again, this is not giving anything away because it's just the way it is. You can see they're quite a young squad on average.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a way that you would be able to actually sort of? Is there a way that you guys could be aiming to sort of get under their skin and know that if you play a certain way, this is a very young squad with not a lot of sort of. For the second time this episode, the lights go out in the middle of a really important question. So yeah, back to it. Just, do you think there's a way, and from your experience, is there a way to get under players' skins, particularly if they are quite young, and could you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, you know.
The dark arts, yes.
There's a lot of ways, but we've got to play our game. Mm-hmm. We've got to control how we want to perform and keep our structure, keep our momentum. There was probably 1 or 2 games last year where we played the complete performance, 90 minutes, you know, from start to finish. But there was a lot of games where we lacked focus, composure. You know, we'd sort of deter away from what we were doing for 10, 15 minutes each half. So, yeah, I mean, teams get under our skin, you know, but we've got to be able to control that, you know. So, yeah, I'm not giving too much away on how we do things, but there are ways to, you know, control the way the game's going. But for us as a team, as a squad, you know, we want to make sure that we're playing the game the way we want to play it.
Excellent.
And we don't fall into their trap. So whatever trap it may be, but
for sure.
as long as we don't fall into it.
Now I have to ask, yes or no? Have you seen Minchumi play at all this season, like live?
I have seen him a little bit. We saw him out the back here, and we were playing at the same time. So I was tossing and turning. They played. They beat Eastern Creek that day.
Okay, that was that game.
Yeah. So I was back and forward, but obviously I was concentrating on our game. So
so you should.
Yeah. But it's just a natural thing to turn around. When someone scores, you always look around. But yeah, like I said, look, unless we get on the field, we don't know what we're going to get. That field, the players that won that might not be the players they're putting on. They might have been missing players, so we've got to play with what's in front of us, and hopefully we can come away with the win.
Without obviously giving anything away, and we spoke about this the first time we chatted. Just remind the audience of how Prospect likes to play and what can they expect from you come Saturday.
Well, from our first game that we played. The team's changed. It'll be a totally different team that we put on the park on the weekend. We like to press a lot. You know what I mean? Put a lot of pressure on the players on their back line. But I can't give you too much because they'll be listening to it.
Yeah. They do. I know. So religious listeners of the podcast.
I'm not going to say way too much. But look, it's going to be a different team that we played. We've recruited a couple more players too, which is. And strengthen the squad, which is good. And we're getting players back from obviously that were COVID at the time and injured and whatnot. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, Lee, it's the first time you've been on here on the podcast, but I wanted to know, can you tell me about your role as a captain, but not just on the field, because we sort of have spoken about that, touched on that already, but in a period of time where so many games have been cancelled, not just this season, but across the last two prior to that. We've had momentum shifting all the time and slowing down. How have you taken it upon yourself as a captain and someone who the boys obviously look up to? And I can see that when you guys play. What are you sort of doing to make sure that everyone sort of sticks together, everyone remains motivated, even when games are being pulled out from under you 24 hours beforehand? So what sort of things have you been doing? Any words of wisdom or?
I don't need to keep these guys motivated.
Okay, good.
They want to play. We want to play week in, week out. We look forward to game day. We're a bunch of lads that give each other crap. Plenty of banter. So we're always talking and texting and chatting amongst ourselves. So I don't need to motivate these guys much. They're all willing, they're all keen. We just want to get out there, play week in, week out with each other, because that's what we really enjoy. We really enjoy just getting out there on the field, strapping up and playing as a team, as a squad. So I don't need to do too much. My main focus is on game day, making sure that everyone's prepped and ready and focused and, doing what's needed for the team. There is no individuals in our squad. Everyone just works for each other, and you will see that as the season progresses. And you probably saw that a lot last year as well. Yeah. So, if I need to play reserve grade, then I need to play reserve grade. If people need to back up, they will back up. We are never short of support from each other, and we're committed as a group to achieve what we want to achieve. So the motivation, mate, they do amongst themselves. We just enjoy playing with each other. So
okay, good. In terms of the banter, now this is a new question.
Yeah.
Who's actually carrying? This sounds like a good bunch of fun guys. So tell me about who's carrying the banter in the group chat. Who is it? Who should be?
Mate, I reckon it's Danny, eh?
Danny, mate.
Hey?
Keeper, mate.
Keeper.
Yeah.
Oh, George hasn't lived it down, that goal he missed.
Yeah,
So.
you got to watch that.
You could just
don't tell him too much, mate, because he'll run with it. He'll grab it and run with it. So.
Well, the thing is, if George says something, all you need to do is send a little clip of that miss. And
yeah, that's right.
He's been copping it. He has been copping it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as you can hear, it's time for us to move out of this room. But I really do appreciate you guys jumping on here. It's been great to have you, and especially you having your little debut on here, which has been great. You spoke wonderfully. Now, to wrap up this episode of the podcast, which I almost forgot to do, I'll now show you the goal of the week. Our LJ Hooker Blacktown BDSFA goal of the week was scored by Jake Smith from Minchinbury Jets' reserve grade side as they took the lead 2-1 against St Pat's. Take a look at this from outside of the box, a screamer in off the crossbar, and the reaction from the crowd and the bench tells you all you need to know. That was an absolute wonder goal. Definitely deserving of the goal of the week, and we can't wait to see next week what tops this one. Send your entry to goal@bdsfa.com and make yourself a goal of the week winner. Which is a fantastic one scored by the Minchinbury reserve side, so maybe you won't have to worry about young Jake Smith hitting one in off the crossbar. But certainly a great goal, and thank you to LJ Hooker Blacktown as always for bringing us that. If I have missed anything from the first segment that I haven't recorded yet, I'm going to put it in right here. I don't think I will though. I back myself, as does this striker outside apparently. No, he's just missed. Anyway, to wrap up, I'm going to cue the outro music now. Thanks very much as always for joining us. Please do like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music, whatever you're watching along with. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week, Thursday, 6 p.m.